All right, so it looks like you've been digging deep into how AI is changing things up at work.
Yeah, definitely a lot of interest in this topic.
You've sent us a ton of notes and articles,
Mm.
everything from, you know, those think pieces to some hard data.
Absolutely.
And it seems like you're really trying to figure out where all of this is headed.
Definitely a lot of moving pieces.
We're talking AI's influence on how productive we are,
Huh?
the impact on our mental health,
That's a big one.
its role in remote work,
Yeah.
how it changes job satisfaction,
Hmm.
and ultimately just like the overall impact on corporate culture.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, it's interesting because it feels like we're at a turning point.
Totally.
Not just robots taking jobs, which is what everybody always thinks about,
Right.
but a real shift in how we think about work itself.
Absolutely. And one thing that really jumps out from all your research is
Yeah.
this constant back and forth with AI,
Hmm.
where it can boost productivity,
Right.
but also lead to more stress.
You got it.
You even flagged a study that found that AI tools
Hmm.
boosted productivity by 20% for marketing teams,
Wow, 20%.
but it also led to a 15% jump in reported stress levels.
Yeah, well, it's that classic too much of a good thing.
Right.
AI can handle all those tedious tasks,
Yeah.
which frees us up for more strategic creative work.
Right.
But then there's this constant comparison. Like
Yeah.
you have to outperform the algorithm,
Sure.
prove your worth,
Right.
and all of that can lead to burnout.
Exactly. And speaking of burnout, you also had a lot of notes about AI and remote work,
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
which seems to be like a mixed bag.
Totally.
Some articles are all positive,
Right.
talking about seamless collaboration and better connectivity,
Yeah.
but others are worried about isolation and that whole work-life balance thing getting even more blurred.
Yeah, and the thing is that AI's impact on remote work really depends on how it's used.
That makes sense.
Is it there to support remote workers, help them connect and feel good?
Yeah,
Or is it just another way to track people and squeeze out every bit of productivity?
right.
It's a question every company needs to ask themselves.
For sure. And you actually had some real-world examples of this, right?
Yeah, some great examples.
On the one hand, you had Company X,
Right.
which is using AI to do things like help remote workers connect better.
Yeah, like virtual team building,
Yeah, exactly.
personalized support,
Yeah.
really cool stuff.
And then you had Company Y,
Oh, yeah, the other end of the spectrum.
where employees feel like they're constantly being watched.
Exactly, like Big Brother is always there.
Yeah, even in their own homes.
All thanks to AI-driven performance
It's
trackers.
almost like two opposite sides of the same coin.
Definitely shows the potential and the risks.
And this brings us to another big theme in your research, job satisfaction.
Yeah,
Some people are worried AI will make their skills obsolete,
understandably so.
but others are excited about learning new things.
Yeah, upskilling and new career paths.
There's even one article
Oh, yeah, what was that one?
talking about a job creation boom
I remember that.
because of AI.
Right, like a whole wave of new jobs.
Like AI ethicist or algorithm trainer.
Jobs we couldn't even imagine just a few years ago.
Exactly, but it makes sense to be a little nervous with all this new technology.
Yeah, for sure.
But history has shown that innovation usually leads to new opportunities.
It always does.
The key is to stay adaptable and keep learning.
Couldn't agree more.
Now, before we move on, you have a note here about something called algorithmic bias.
Ah, yes, that's an important one.
Yeah, and I think we should explain that
FF.
for anyone who might not know what it means.
Yeah, basically it means AI systems can pick up on
Mm-hmm.
and even amplify existing biases in society.
So it's not that the AI is intentionally biased.
No, not at all.
It's more like it learns from data
Right.
that might already be biased.
Exactly. Like imagine an AI hiring tool
Okay.
trained on past hiring decisions that were biased against women.
Oh, I see.
The AI might unintentionally continue that bias.
Even if the qualifications are there.
Exactly, favoring male candidates just because of the data it learned from.
That's a really important point.
It's something we need to be very aware of.
Which leads us to the bigger picture.
The big question.
How does all of this affect company culture as a whole?
The million-dollar question.
Some of your sources suggest that AI could lead to better decision-making
Yeah, data-driven decisions.
and more transparency.
That would be great.
But there's also worry about these tools being misused
Of course, that's always a risk.
or making existing inequalities even worse.
That's the real danger.
It feels like companies are at a crossroads.
They have a choice to make.
Will they use AI to make workplaces fairer and more fulfilling,
Right.
or will they use it to increase the power imbalances?
And widen the gap between those who have and those who don't.
So what does all of this mean for you, the listener?
Good question.
AI is already changing the game,
No doubt about it.
and it's only going to get more influential.
It's the future.
It has the power to make us more productive,
Uh-huh.
open up new career paths,
Absolutely.
and even make us feel better at work.
That's the goal.
But like any powerful tool, there are risks,
Always.
potential for more stress and burnout,
Mhm.
the possibility of jobs disappearing for those who don't adapt,
Right.
and that very real concern about AI perpetuating harmful biases.
We has to be vigilant.
That's why your deep dive into this topic is so important.
Knowledge is power.
By understanding the nuances, asking the tough questions, and having these conversations,
Yeah. Open dialogue is crucial.
we can shape a future of work where AI empowers us,
Exactly.
not the other way around.
We need to be in control.
As you continue to explore this, think about this.
Okay, I'm listening.
How do we make sure that AI serves humanity,
That's the challenge.
not the other way around?
And the opportunity.
It's a challenge and an opportunity for all of us.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, so you've been sending in some really fascinating notes on AI and the future of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like you've been thinking about AI and productivity and mental health and
Mhm.
even remote work and job satisfaction, all this stuff.
Right.
And you're trying to figure out how AI will change not just the work that we do,
Yeah.
but how we actually experience work.
Exactly how it feels to work, in the age of AI.
Yeah, exactly right.
It's not just about, will a robot take my job? It's more nuanced than that.
It is. It really is. So let's dive into that.
Let's do it.
You've been looking into how AI could change things up in the workplace, maybe even like boost productivity.
Yeah, for sure.
What have you found there that's really stood out to you?
Well, one thing that's really caught my eye is the potential for AI to become like this incredibly efficient, personal assistant,
Okay.
but also almost like a mindful life coach.
Interesting.
All in one,
Yeah.
Think about it. We're talking about AI tools that can help you prioritize your tasks,
Ah.
streamline your workflow. Right. Even offer these like personalized recommendations for managing stress and avoiding burnout.
So AI could help us work smarter, but also feel better while we're doing it.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, that's the hope, right?
That's a pretty amazing thought.
Yeah.
But you've also been taking notes on some potential downsides, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There are always two sides to the coin.
Of course.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that worry you about AI in the workplace?
I think one of the biggest concerns, and it comes up a lot in the research, is this idea of becoming too reliant
Okay.
on these AI tools.
Okay.
Because we let AI do all the heavy lifting for us. What happens to our own critical thinking skills?
Right.
What about our ability to be creative and solve problems on our own,
Right. Will we lose those skills?
Exactly. We have to strike a balance.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And what about the human side of work? Like the collaborate, the mentorship, those moments when you just bump into someone in the hallway
Mm-hmm.
and a new idea comes out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Can AI really replace those kinds of interactions?
That's such a crucial point. AI can definitely make it easier to, work remotely, connect with people all over the world.
Yeah.
But we can't forget how important real human connection is, building relationships, feeling like you belong.
Yeah.
All of that is still so vital, even in a super digital workplace.
It is. I completely agree with you there. I also noticed you've been looking into research on AI and job satisfaction.
Oh, yeah, definitely a lot of interesting stuff there.
Yeah. What do you think? Will AI free us up from all those boring tasks and let us focus on work that feels more meaningful?
Right.
Or will it lead to more people feeling insecure about their jobs, more anxiety?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It really makes you think about what work even means.
Yeah.
One of the articles you sent me talked about this idea that as AI takes over more of those like routine repetitive tasks,
Uh-huh.
we might see a shift towards jobs that require more of those uniquely human skills.
Okay, like what kinds of skills?
Things like creativity,
Mm-hmm.
critical thinking, emotional intelligence, the stuff that AI isn't so good at yet.
So maybe AI could push us towards jobs that are more human-centric.
Exactly. It could be this weird paradox where the rise of the machines actually leads to a more human-focused workplace.
That is a very interesting paradox.
But of course, it all depends on how we approach these technologies, how we design them, implement them, regulate them.
Right.
AI has the potential to make existing inequalities worse, but it could also be a force for positive change. It really comes down to the choices we make.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when we think about AI reshaping corporate culture, do you think we'll end up with workplaces that are more data-driven and efficient,
Probably.
but maybe also less personal?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
As AI becomes more and more woven into our work lives, how can we ensure that it's actually making our lives better? Boosting our well-being, increasing our job satisfaction rather than taking away from those things.
That's a great question, and I think we've covered a lot of really important ground here today.
Yeah, for sure.
We talk about how AI could revolutionize productivity and well-being, but also the risks of becoming too dependent on AI,
Right.
and how important it is to stay connected with each other, even in this, increasingly digital workplace.
Absolutely.
It's really clear that you're asking the right questions about how to shape the future of work with AI.
Well, I appreciate that. I think it's something we all need to be thinking about.
Absolutely. Keep thinking, keep questioning, and let's work together to create a future of work that benefits everyone.
Couldn't agree more.
So it seems like you're pretty interested in AI and how it's going to change the workplace.
Yeah, it's a hot topic right now.
It is, and especially all this stuff about employee well-being. You sent us this snippet about a potential podcast episode called AI in Corporate Culture and Employee Well-being.
Okay.
And we thought it was really interesting. We wanted to kind of use that as a springboard to sort of dive into this topic and explore the themes that you brought up,
Yeah, sounds good.
like AI and productivity and how that's going to affect mental health, and even how we navigate this new world of remote work.
Yeah, I think all that's really important.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So one of the things that really jumped out at us was this whole question of, are AI tools going to be our best friend or our worst enemy when it comes to remote work? What do you think?
Well, I think it's a really good question, and the snippet you sent really gets at the heart of this tension. It's like we want to use AI to boost productivity,
Right.
but we don't want to do it at the expense of our employees.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky balance.
It is a tricky balance. And that actually leads right into the next thing, which is mental health. I mean, if we are constantly being measured and optimized by algorithms, I mean, couldn't that create like a pressure cooker environment?
Oh, absolutely. It definitely could. I mean, there was a study recently from Harvard Business Review, and it found that employees who are using AI-powered monitoring tools has like 20% higher stress levels than their colleagues who weren't.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, just imagine constantly feeling like you're being watched.
Right.
It can be exhausting. But on the other hand, AI can also help us identify early warning signs of burnout, and maybe even suggest ways to prevent it.
Oh, interesting.
So you can imagine a program that analyzes communication patterns, flags any potential problems for HR. That way they can step in and support employees before things get out of hand.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it shows how the way we design and implement these tools can actually have a huge impact.
Yeah, that makes sense. This whole concern about monitoring is even more pronounced when you think about the rise of remote work,
Right.
because the lines between work and personal life are already so blurred. And it seems like from what you shared with us that you're particularly interested in how AI is affecting remote teams.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, remote work is already making it harder to disconnect.
Yeah.
But now imagine an AI assistant, popping up at all hours with new tasks.
Oh, no.
Not exactly a recipe for a healthy work-life balance, right?
Not really.
But AI could also be the thing that makes remote teams work better.
Okay, how so?
So picture project management platforms like Asana using AI to prioritize your work based on deadlines and, dependencies,
Oh, wow.
or tools that do real-time translation, which would just break down language barriers in global teams.
Right? That would be cool.
So it could be really helpful.
So it sounds like it's all about finding that sweet spot.
Well,
Right? Harnessing the potential of AI while also putting safeguards in place.
Yes.
Okay, but what about the fear that AI is just going to replace jobs altogether?
Right. I mean, that's a valid concern
Mm.
and one that we need to talk about. But I think we have to look at history. Technology always disrupts things, but it also creates new things.
Right.
But this time, it's not just about new jobs. It's about redefining the skills we need.
Okay.
So, for example, let's take the legal profession. AI can analyze documents, research case law super fast, but we still need human lawyers to, interpret the findings, advise clients, and come up with strategies.
So instead of fearing AI, we should think of it as like a partner, a tool that can help us do things better and maybe even do things we couldn't do before.
Exactly. And that leads us to how AI could actually reshape corporate culture itself.
Okay, that's interesting. I've been thinking as we've been talking about this that this is a really complex issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just a simple black and white situation.
Definitely not. If we want to really successfully integrate AI into the workplace, then we need to take a hard look at traditional corporate values. And even leadership styles. I mean, think about it. Hierarchical structures might not work as well in a world powered by data and collaboration.
That's a good point.
We might see a shift to more agile, data-driven approaches where companies are really prioritizing things like continuous learning and adaptability and employee well-being
Right.
to stay competitive.
Right, to stay ahead of the curve. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, and I think the biggest takeaway is that AI is more than just a new technology. It's completely changing how we work.
Hmm.
And it's forcing us to rethink everything from productivity to even the whole idea of corporate culture. Before we wrap up, I think our expert has a final thought-provoking question for you to consider.
Well, as AI becomes even more embedded in our workplaces, I think we need to ask ourselves, how will this change our traditional corporate values? What new values will be essential for companies to succeed in an AI-driven world?
That's definitely something to think about. The future of work is constantly evolving, and AI is a major player in that evolution. So stay curious, keep exploring, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one who comes up with the next breakthrough in this exciting field. So it seems like you're pretty interested in AI and how it's going to change the future of work, huh?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people are thinking about that these days.
You sent over a bunch of stuff about AI and productivity and mental health and even remote work and job satisfaction and how AI changes corporate culture. I mean, it's a lot.
It really is a lot to unpack.
But by the time we're done with this deep dive, you'll have a way better understanding of AI and the future of work,
That's the goal.
for sure. So let's just jump right in. You sent this one article about a company that saw a 20% increase in productivity when they use AI to automate a bunch of their data entry and reporting.
Right. And at the same time, though, their employee stress levels went way up, too.
Oh, wow. So it's like a double-edged sword, kind of.
Exactly. AI can be amazing for boosting efficiency, but there can be some unintended consequences, too.
Yeah, for sure. So besides data entry and reporting, what are some other ways that AI is changing productivity in different industries?
Well, healthcare is a big one. AI can look at medical images like X-rays and stuff and help doctors diagnose problems much faster and more accurately than before.
Wow, so it's speeding up treatment.
Yeah, and in finance, AI can spot fraudulent transactions and manage risk, which is saving companies tons of money.
It's really incredible all the things AI can do.
It is.
But like we said, it's not always all sunshine and roses.
Right. We have to be careful that the push for efficiency doesn't hurt employee well-being.
Yeah, like in that article we talked about earlier where the employees got more stressed.
Exactly.
Imagine working in a place where AI is tracking everything you do and you're always getting notifications and you feel like you have to answer them instantly.
Oh, man, it sounds exhausting.
It would be. it could totally lead to burnout.
Yeah, no thanks. I'd much rather have a good work-life balance.
Absolutely. So speaking of changing the way we work, you also sent in some stuff about AI and remote work.
Yeah, because that's another big thing that's changing the workplace. For sure. And AI is playing a huge role. AI-powered communication tools can translate languages in real time now.
Wait, so you're saying like I could be on a video call with someone who speaks a different language and we could understand each other perfectly?
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's pretty amazing.
It's like something out of Star Trek.
I know, right? It makes global collaboration so much easier.
That's really cool. But I wonder, like, isn't there a risk of people feeling isolated if they're only communicating through technology?
That's a good point. Human connection is still super important, so companies have to be intentional about creating opportunities for their remote workers to bond.
So like virtual coffee breaks or online team building activities or even just getting together in person every once in a while.
Exactly. It's all about finding that balance between using technology and maintaining those human connections.
Makes sense. So we've covered productivity and mental health and remote work. But what about how people actually feel about their jobs? How is AI impacting job satisfaction?
It really depends on how it's used. If AI takes over the boring, repetitive tasks and lets people focus on more creative and interesting work, then job satisfaction could go up.
Right, because no one wants to be stuck doing data entry all day.
Exactly. But on the other hand, if AI starts taking away people's jobs, or if it's used to constantly monitor employees, then job satisfaction could plummet.
That's a good point. It all comes back to responsible implementation, I guess.
Definitely. And speaking of implementation, you sent in some research about how AI is changing corporate culture as a whole.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear more about that. What exactly is going on?
Well, AI is forcing companies to become way more data-driven in the way they make decisions. You know, AI algorithms can analyze market trends and predict customer behavior and come up with insights that humans could never get on their own.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is. It can make companies much more efficient and adaptable, but it also means they need to create a culture of transparency and trust. Employees need to understand how this data is being used, and they need to know that their privacy is protected.
Otherwise, they're going to freak out.
Exactly. So to sum it all up, it seems like AI is going to change the workplace in a ton of ways, both good and bad. It really comes down to how we choose to implement and integrate these powerful tools.
That's a great way to put it. It's kind of like we're at a crossroads and we get to decide which path to take.
Exactly. And that brings up a big question for everyone to think about. As AI becomes more and more a part of our work lives, how can we make sure that it benefits both employees and organizations?
That's something we all need to be thinking about for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive. I think we've covered a lot of ground today, and I hope our listener has a much better understanding of AI and the future of work now.
Me too. It's a really exciting time to be thinking about these things.
It is for sure. Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into the future?
Always. Especially when it involves AI and how we work.
Exactly. And we're not talking robots taking over the coffee machine. This is about AI changing the very fabric of our companies and how we feel about our jobs. Kind of a big deal, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's fascinating, really. It's like, AI has this insane potential to boost productivity, streamline everything, but then there's this other side.
For like a flip side to the coin.
Yeah, exactly. We'll mess with our mental health, our privacy. I mean, some of the sources we dug into were pretty intense about the downsides.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Like one article talked about how AI could cause some serious burnout.
Yeah.
People feeling like they're constantly racing to learn new skills because the tech is changing so fast.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Plus, this whole thing with algorithms watching our every move, it's a bit Orwellian, isn't it? Like Big Brother, but it's big algorithm.
Totally. Makes you wonder, is all that efficiency worth the constant stress?
Right. And it gets even more complicated when you factor in remote work, which, let's face it, is here to stay for a lot of us.
Totally. I mean, it's fantastic for flexibility, but how does AI play into that whole dynamic?
Well, On one hand, it can help us collaborate better, communicate more effectively. But on the other hand, it also brings up all these concerns about trust and privacy. You're working from home, you think you finally escaped the boss looking over your shoulder.
And bam, it's AI tracking your every keystroke.
Exactly. And even like analyzing your facial expressions during video calls. One source even compared it to a digital panopticon, which basically means a prison where you constantly feel watched.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely creepy. I mean,
Yeah.
how can we make sure AI helps us work better remotely without turning our homes into some kind of digital surveillance state?
That's the million-dollar question. And then there's the whole issue of job satisfaction.
Right. Like, sure, AI can automate those mind-numbing tasks and free us up for more creative work. Sounds great in theory.
It does. But then, that nagging question creeps in. What if AI can do our jobs faster, cheaper, better? What happens to us?
Yeah. It's exciting and terrifying at the same time, right? I mean, I'd love to ditch the boring stuff, but not if it means losing my livelihood.
Exactly. And it's not just about losing your job, it's the uncertainty of the future. Like, what skills will we even need in an AI-dominated world?
It's a lot to wrap your head around. And then there's how AI impacts company culture.
Oh, that's a big one. We hear a lot about AI promoting inclusivity because it can take human bias out of things like hiring and promotions.
Right. So theoretically, it could create a more level playing field.
But could it also lead to a workplace where everything is so automated, so data-driven that we lose that human element, the connections, the relationships?
Right. Like imagine a workplace where you're mainly interacting with chatbots and algorithms. Sure, things might get done super fast, but would it feel, well, kind of soulless?
Exactly. It makes you wonder, are we trading efficiency for connection? So, big picture, where does this leave us?
Yeah. After digging into all these sources, what are the key takeaways for our listeners?
I think the biggest thing is that AI is here to stay. It's going to transform the workplace, no doubt about it. But we need to be smart about how we use it. It's like we're walking a tightrope.
We need to find that sweet spot where AI enhances our work lives without totally messing with our mental health, privacy, and job security.
Absolutely.
So as you're going about your day listening to this, I want you to really think about this. How is AI showing up in your workplace? What are your hopes and concerns?
Yeah, keep those questions in mind. Stay curious, stay informed, and speak up.
Because the future of work is being shaped right now, and we all have a role to play.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Until next time.